E3 is finally over, I'm tired, Commissioner Evie over here is drunk off their ass, but we still got a few more games to talk about, so let's just get to it. The show floor is closed, people have gotten their gameplay demos and written their previews and talked about all the games they saw, but we're still here talking about a few more things that happened before the show and a few smaller games that happened at the show that didn't get a ton of coverage. I'm just going to read them off this list and explain a little bit about them because there's a lot, and quite frankly, I'm tired of talking about E3, so let's just get started with Persona 5 Royal. Of course, the game itself wasn't playable at E3, but right before E3 started, Atlus put out a new trailer for Kasumi, the new character. The trailer shows off her persona, some of her skills, and a few of the social interactions she'll have with Joker. That's not all though. Atlus USA put out an English version of the trailer shown at the Persona Super Live concert over there in Japan. Now this is my moment to brag that I was at that concert and saw that trailer firsthand live, so it's nothing new to me, but it's still cool to see it in English. Persona 5 The Royal comes out on Halloween 2019 in Japan and sometime in 2020 everywhere else. Next up according to this list is, oh boy, all the Stadia stuff that happened before E3. Google held its own Stadia Connect is what they're calling their direct-like streams, and in it they talked a bit more about Stadia and its launch date. They talked about the specs you'll need to play your games, and 35 megabits per second is what you'll need to play the maximum resolution, which is 4K. You also get 5.1 surround sound with that, but the tiers go down all the way to 10 megabits where you'll get some 720p action. All this stays at 60 frames per second though. Honestly, that's pretty generous. I thought it would be a lot more intensive, but I guess since you're just streaming video, that kind of checks out. I think even Netflix's 4K is about 35 megabits per second recommended as well. They also talked about pricing. The main way you'll get to play Stadia is by buying your games outright, just like you would do with any other retailer or console, and the service itself will be free up to 1080p 60 at stereo sound. If you want to get to 4K and 5.1 surround sound, you're gonna need to pony up $10 a month for Stadia Pro. In addition to the games you buy individually up front, Stadia will also provide a collection of free games for your subscription. Kind of like Xbox Game Pass, but right now the only game announced for this service is Destiny 2. There's also what they're calling the Founders Edition, which is I guess their equivalent of buying a console. For 130 bucks, you'll get a Stadia controller, a Chromecast 4K, and 3 months of Stadia Pro. This also gives you first access to Stadia in November, while everyone else will have to wait till 2020 to play the free version of Stadia. Of course, you don't need to buy this pack because as long as you have a Chrome browser, you can run Stadia on the Chrome browser, and you can plug in your Xbox or PS4 controller just fine. Now, the Destiny bit inside the Stadia video led into Bungie's own live stream where they talked about the future of Destiny 2. With Destiny leaving Activision, they are free to change up pretty much their entire business model. There was a lot of announcements, but mainly it was that Destiny is going to Steam. Their new expansion Shadowkeep is out September 17th. From now on, you won't need to own any past expansions to play future expansions. Cross-save is finally coming. That's between all platforms, PC, Xbox, and PS4. And the base Destiny 2 game is going to become free and going to be renamed Destiny 2 New Light. This includes all Year 1 content plus some new locations from Year 2, though the actual quests and stuff from the expansions of Year 2 won't be available unless you buy them. Honestly, these announcements have kind of reinvigorated my want to play Destiny 2, and the cross-save thing is huge. I've been wanting that for such a long time. Despite my qualms with Destiny over the years, I like playing that game in quick bursts, so I will probably come back to it in September. But now let's move on to a little bit closer to E3, but not quite the days of E3 yet. We're talking about some stuff that EA showed at their show. And really, EA's show was just Jedi Fallen Order. They showed off other games at their stream, but it was mostly stuff that was already released, give or take a sports game or two, so we're just gonna focus on Jedi Fallen Order. Their stream showed an extended gameplay demo of lightsaber combat, world traversal, and force powers, and it looked fine is the best thing I could say about that. The gameplay they were showing was a Star Wars video game. I kind of expected it to be a little more exciting, but apparently, according to people who were at the show who played the behind closed doors demo, the stuff they showed at those meetings was way more interesting than they showed on the live stream. And that talk is really what has me more curious about Jedi Fallen Order. So I guess we'll just have to wait a bit to see more of that game later in the year. Jedi Fallen Order comes out on November 15th, 2019. Now we can finally get to the actual days of the show, and the couple of things I wrote here were not really things I wanted to play, but stuff that I wanted to talk about because they're just kind of weird. The first up is a game called Genshin Impact. This is an open world action RPG based off a manga from a developer who mostly makes mobile games. The trailer is very anime, but what caught my attention was that they were trying so hard to evoke Breath of the Wild. The color palette, the shots of the open world, the slight peaks of combat and traversal gameplay that we got, there's just so much gesturing towards Breath of the Wild, and I don't think that game is gonna be like Breath of the Wild at all. Of course, this is too early to judge. They never said they were trying to make a game like Breath of the Wild. The information on Genshin Impact is really light. It's just a little text blurb on their website. You can sign up for a beta though, and I did because I need to know what this is. The questionnaire when you sign up for the beta does ask if you like gacha elements though, so that kind of just hints to me what kind of game this actually is. It's a weird one, but it's coming out in spring 2020 for PC and mobile. Moving on to something else that got showed before E3 but got some gameplay at the show, it's the Destroy All Humans remake. I have some fond memories of Destroy All Humans. I played that at my friend's house on a PS2 a bunch as a kid, but I wouldn't say it's a great game. It's fine. I think I was just more into Richard Horvitz channeling Invader Zim without actually playing Invader Zim, but they're remaking that game, and the gameplay they showed looks like it just plays kind of like the PS2 game, so I'm not sure what to make of that considering it probably doesn't hold up as well now in 2019. That game is set to be released sometime in 2020. And one last thing on this iffy list of video games is, here we go, Shenmue 3. E3 gave us a new Shenmue 3 trailer and a release date, and just from back here covering E3 remotely looking at the trailer, it doesn't look great. Graphically, things kind of just look like an up-res old-ass video game, and word from the show floor is that it doesn't play much differently either. It sure is more Shenmue, and I want to say that's unfortunate, but did we really expect anything more? The other bit of Shenmue information we got out of E3 was that Shenmue 3 only takes you 40% into the overarching story. 3 games in, 2 decades apart, and you're not even halfway through the main story. Don't you fucking say anything about Kingdom Hearts. Shenmue 3 will be out on August 27th, 2019. I don't know if you can hear this or not on the mic, but it just started raining like hell outside, so hopefully this sounds okay. Anyway, we're moving on to our next game, and it's called Cris Tales. Or maybe it's Cris Tales, I'm not sure, but it's a turn-based RPG with a lovely art style. It is definitely going for the JRPG turn-based combat gameplay, which I'm totally fine with. I do have some reservations about old-school style JRPGs, but turn-based combat isn't one of them. This game does have a hook besides its art style though. The story revolves around time travel, and the main character can see the past, present, and future at the same time. This manifests as a triangular split in the main gameplay, with the future being on the right hand side, the past on the left, and the present in the middle. You'll use this to solve puzzles and even change the state of enemies you're fighting. The game isn't out till 2020, but there is a brief gameplay demo you can download right now on PC. I played the demo and it seems okay. Walking around the world was a little dull and it felt like it took too long to get from place to place, and I felt the combat animations needed to better telegraph when to time your button presses so you can get a bonus attack in, but this is all still early of course. If this looks interesting to you, go check it out. The demo seems pretty short, and look out for the full release later in 2020. The next game I have on my list here is called Griftlands. It's a roguelite deck building game. That might sound familiar because that's what Slay the Spire is, but this isn't quite the same thing. Yes, you're building a deck of attacks to then attack enemies, but it seems that it might have some more RPG elements to it as well. There's a world map, your character has some stats, and it looks like you can recruit party members as well. You know me, I love me some card games, so of course I want to try this out when it's released. There'll be an early access alpha available in July on the Epic Store. Then in June 2020, it'll be in early access on Steam, and anyone who bought the early access version on Epic will get the version on Steam for free, and vice versa, and they're looking to release the full game in fall 2020. Apparently this game has been in development for a while and used to be a full RPG, but then they redid it to be this card game based roguelite game, which is pretty interesting considering how well Slay the Spire has done. Anyway, next game, let me check my list. We got the next game from Sam Barlow, and that's called Telling Lies. This is a game I'm really excited for. Sam Barlow is a developer of Her Story. Her Story was one of my favorite games of 2015. Telling Lies takes a similar approach to Her Story, in which you're trying to piece together a narrative from a bunch of FMV video clips that are all disjointed at first on some sort of server. Your way to find the clips is to search words that were said in the clips themselves. So watching one clip might give you the word for love, for example, and then you search love and get 5 other clips, and you go down this rabbit hole of detectiving and piecing together this mystery. When I played Her Story, I had a notebook in front of me just scribbled with notes all over the place, writing down terms that I wanted to search so I wouldn't forget later, and it just felt great unraveling all those things piece by piece, and I can't wait to do it again with Telling Lies. There's no firm release date just yet, just sometime in 2019. And I saved the biggest one for last because Sony was not at E3. We didn't think we'd be getting any new information about their games coming up, but right before E3, Kojima released a new trailer for Death Stranding. This was a lengthy trailer, as Kojima trailers tend to be, and we finally get to get this vague idea of what this game is going to be. There were shots of combat with a briefcase and walking around the world, including pulling out a giant ladder from your pocket, but the main thing of that trailer was this weird setup for the story. There are talks about how the country has collapsed, everything is separated, and how the president is the president of jack shit, which is a great stupid line. We got to look at a bunch of new characters, including Die Hard Man, but maybe most importantly, we got a release date, and that's November 8th, 2019. This year. I did not expect that game to be out this year. You could have told me 2020, 2021, or even 2022, and I would have believed you. But no, it is out this year, and I definitely will play that because I want some of that dude's weirdness in my life. And that's it. That was E3. It was a bit of a weird show, Sony not being there and EA cutting their conference completely. I hear the attendance at the show floor was a little bit less than it usually is too, but we still got some good games out of it, as we do every year. There was a bit of a weird spot where they showed a lot of CG trailers and not a lot of gameplay, but I think that's because we got new consoles coming next year, and a lot of developers are kind of in this in-between spot of developing stuff for the current consoles and the next-gen consoles. But there's going to still be an E3 next year, so we'll be back talking about video games in the summer and losing sleep and getting drunk as hell like that Eevee over there. Anyway, folks, thank you so much for watching. Check out all the E3 videos. They're all on a playlist. They'll be at the end of this video in the sidebar there. And we hope you stick around for some more stuff we got coming up later this year. Anyway, again, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.